Well, you know, I mean, that's it. I've never slept in, I don't think, past 8:30 in my whole life, ever. And I'm not sure many people can say that. And it wasn't because I was health biased, just because I wanted to, I didn't want to waste any time, playtime. It's like, what did I say? I call him a full-time funhog and a pro leisure tour.
And here's the big guy.
No, that's on and walk, dude. On and walk.
Hey, Bruce. Yeah, see how hard he's working? He's working real hard.
Well, I was skiing. I got into skiing. Becky and I was 9th grade. I think she was 7th grade when we started going together. And 8 lessons at Snoqualmie or Ski Acres, and the bus ride up was $28 total. So we did that and learned how to ski. And we just kind of neck in the back. Where are we going with that one?
It's a pretty special relationship, my mom and my dad, that, you know, lucky to grow up with that type of love and affection and trust and buddyship. As they would say, it was puppy love. They just did everything together, and bless my mom's heart, you know, could be strong enough to travel and be with Bruce doing things his way, you know.
Becky wanted to get married. I was 2 years ahead of her, and when I was in college 2 years, and she was getting graduated from high school, and she wanted to get married, and I said, it seems to me marriage is tough enough without money problems, job problems, and army problems. So if you want to stick around, and we'll have a great life, but I'm not getting married till after I get the army out of the way and we get jobs. And so we graduated from college, or I did, and went over to Sun Valley with her, and then I went to work. And Sun Valley was a really big, romantic, super place to go. I loved the place, and all my friends were there, and it was just a really great, tight little society of a bunch of neat people. And I started teaching skiing for Tom Evans Ski School, and then she got a job for that, and I was teaching with ski professionals. As it was, this year was the 50th straight year in a row I've been to Sun Valley at least 2 weeks. Never missed a year in 50 years. Even when I was in the Army, I made 2 weeks at Sun Valley. Well, in college, I never signed up for a class after 11:30 in the morning. I'd take them early at 6:30 or 7:30, but I never took an afternoon class because that's when we did the activities of skiing or water skiing, or we'd go to the Student Union building at the University of Washington, look down at the lake, and if the lake was windy, we'd probably go sailing, and if it was calm, we'd go water skiing, and if not, we might go skiing. We did Hobie Cats, but we had a beeline catamaran we could water ski behind, and we'd be out on Lake Washington going 30 miles an hour, and the Coast Guard would be above us in their helicopter telling us to get off the lake, and we're shaking our fists at them, and that's why we were out there with goggles on and ripping it up. It was really exciting.
He learned how to row, and he went to nationals at University of Washington. Just did really great, till he'd get fired from the coach because he'd ski on the weekends, and then he spent all week training to get to #1 chair again, and then on Saturday he wouldn't show up because he was skiing. So it's just this revolving cycle of hard work, because the coach would be so pissed. Barr, you can't, you're supposed to be here training, but I want to go skiing. And then you're at the worst spot on the boat, and then by middle of the week he's at the best spot again because he worked harder.
Pretty much most of my time working out, trying to have as much fun as I could every day. We jumped, water ski jumped, and used this old, what you call a flat kite. They told you, the original flat kites, didn't do much, where you just held on. Regallo designed this concept of a Regallo wing that for the NASA program, I guess, but Bill Bennett made it into a tow kite that you could pull, and then you could release and fly down. The way we ended up in it was a water skier magazine came out with an ad, $500. So I told we were at a party, and I told all my friends that we water skied with, and said how fun this would be if we got a kite and we could actually release and fly back to the lake. And everyone was having a little too much to drink and said it was a great idea. And that was Saturday night. I ordered it on Monday, and Thursday it showed up, and I called all my friends and said, the kite's here. And they all said, the what's here? None of them ever remembered that ordering the kite. So I bought it, and we started learning how to tow kites, and eventually that led to jumping off hills and hang gliding.
Sky sailing's a new sport. You're here to learn the sport safely. It can be very safe and easy to learn, or it can be extremely hazardous. And hopefully by the end of the course, you'll be able to fly like the pilot who's coming down now.
Good instruction and training are essential. An approved impact helmet firmly secured, shin and knee guards and good boots, and padded gloves are a necessity. Guide the sail with a light touch of the control bar and hold it close between your waist and chest. Push up and out to flare.
It's kind of very similar, I think, when you compare hang gliding back in the 70s to wingsuiting today. The guys, they didn't fully understand the aerodynamics, and they're all just learning it with no education. You know, they were experimenting and just pushing the limits, kind of like modern foot launch flight today. But they were also doing things like hanging upside down on their, by their legs without really even a harness. I mean, doing stuff like that.
No, I don't think we were doing them well. We were just doing them first. We didn't really, it was amazing. During those early times, they were kind of barnstorming days, I figured, but you ate, slept, and dreamt it. I mean, you were involved in trying to figure out how to create something that would work. The first time we did a foot launch, we had done a lot of pretty high releases off the lines, but we decided we were going to try it, Petey Rutherford and I, and we went to the top of the mountain above Gimlet, which was about 2,400 vertical. And so I was running downhill, and I tripped and fell forward and almost dove through the control bar. And then all of a sudden I was maybe 1,000 feet in the air and going up. So everything down on the earth was just disappearing, or at least getting a lot smaller rapidly. Finally I got out and penetrated and made it to the bottom. And my wife and kids come running over, and I couldn't even stand up. I had so much adrenaline.
I mean, growing up with Bruce Barr as your dad, you were always doing something. So I remember you're just kind of dirt dust devil type of kids, and I remember the epic high fives and the celebration of we did it, and not knowing I was probably 3 or 4. Those were some of the earliest memories, watching them fly. They didn't know exactly what they were doing, but they sure were having a good time, and that kind of enthusiasm was real infectious. Yeah, many people got hurt or paralyzed and died. A couple of close friends of my dad, and that's when he decided to say, let's walk away from this. We got other things to do.
We didn't really understand what you shouldn't do and couldn't do, and I was in charge of who got to fly off Sun Valley Baldy, and I was blowing about 35, and I was going down college, and I got this huge downdraft that virtually almost inverted the hang glider billow, and I'm up against the keel bar going towards the Olympic Ridge, trying to make a turn and dive and get some airspeed. And when I hit below the trees and got ground effect, I went pow. And I looked around and nothing had broken. I was still sitting in the hang glider, and I flew down, and Becky and the kids were there, and I said, let's put it away. I think we have a great life ahead of us. Let's try and make it.
Don't die dumb. Preventive problems, be happy, work hard, and nothing's worth dying for. My mom said, you either keep doing this or I'm taking the kids, but I want my kids to have a dad. He's like, well, that was fun while that lasted. Let's move on to some new thing. My parents told us, we're moving to San Juan Island, and I've been to Roach Harbor, and we went up there a bunch because he had a boat up there, so we were learning it, and he was looking for a place to buy. But I didn't want to leave this ultimate compound he built that had all the toys any kid would want. It had rope swings, it had climb over, cargo nets strung between trees, My dad found a sky slide out on 99 that was in a ditch, and he bought it from a guy, and it was a 3-lane sky slide he built into this big hill. And huge motocross track. We had the original dune buggies from the Honda Odysseys that he'd have races with. You didn't just buy one, you needed 3, so you could have all his buddies and they'd run around together. And it had a pool and a tennis court, and it just wasn't anything extravagant, it was just what we did. And he had the horses. But moving to San Juan Island, I was scared, obviously, to go to a new place. But the first day, I'm so thankful they moved us up there, because it's a small town, small school, and I still have so many friends, lifelong friends. And that's the difference than, I think, what he ultimately wanted from us than growing up in the city. You know, and the experiences we could do out on San Juan Island. We lived on the water. It was just awesome time. And he's always been into fishing.
Fishing has really been my love, I guess, all my life.
Probably some of his earliest memories with his dad is fishing.
Yeah, my dad was a fishing rep. In 1948, he brought fishing tackle, spinning reels to North America. And I took over his business in '66. I was 22, I think, and I'm going out and trying to sell fishing rods and things. And I still have an interest in the equipment end of it, as you can see from my tackle shop.
And, I've always tried to capture what it is, what he loves so much. I think it's, the unknown of it, and the chance of catching it, the chance of trying to outsmart where a fish is.
It's just fun to try and find a fish that you can outsmart. The problem is, not every time you can do that. You gotta find a fish dumber than you, and sometimes that's hard for me to do. We moved to San Juan Island and trying to slow things down. And
he met all these islanders that had a great lifestyle, and they only worked 8 months a year. And they were making very good money.
And I really liked fishing, sport fishing, and one of the locals said, I think I'll go to New Zealand, nothing's gonna affect my income for the next 10 months. And I said, tell me about it. This is how much you make? $200,000. God, I wanna know more.
And my dad's like, well, I know how to work, I know how to push myself, that's what I'm good at.
So we ended up buying a boat and license and going up and fishing. And
he went up there and crewed one season, and was like, this is easy, this is fun, and went out and taught himself how to do it.
And I remember I'd never been on a gill netter before, and I'm driving down the river, and I called up Rick Gard and said, wind blows against the tide, which end do I tie it to? And in the next 4 days I was top boat for the Trident fishermen over in Nishigak. And I got my market, and I fished, I think, 18 years.
And worked harder with a fresh mind. The old fish, some of the old timers would go to sleep at night. Well, Bruce was, you mean I can tow and work at night and I'll catch more fish than them? I mean, he wasn't trying to compete with them, but it's like, I can make more money, so I have to work less in the winter. And he just excelled through it. And he never looked at it as commercial fishing. This was like fun. This is like sports fishing with a net, So that mentality made the summers in Alaska amazingly fun. And he always brought my mom up there, and I remember some of the old timers like, Becky, don't tell our wives how exactly it is up here, because it's pretty awesome. And she was the only woman in Bristol Bay. No one would bring their wife up there, but yeah, my mom, dad, they loved it, and she was right there with us. During that whole time, he was always grooming me. He just loves to teach and show people what to do. So, Barry, come up on the flybridge. This is why we're doing this. This is what I'm seeing those guys there. I think they're in a not as good spot as we could be here. So he's always kind of visualizing what he's thinking. Then we had the opportunity where I became a captain at 17 in 1987, and had my boat, the Saxon, and I went out with everything and wanting to prove myself, and did great. Caught more fish than everyone in our group.
And we fished almost every day, and I'd go up and catch 30,000 sockeye in the summer, and I'd come back home, and Becky and I would be out fishing all day, just sport fishing. We were having so much fun, enjoying doing what we did. We didn't get enough.
She was an awesome, awesome mom that was just there for you and did everything, and kind of kept the gel together, of what the lifestyle was and what we did, and then she got sick and passed away really early. It was a bummer, and my dad was never really the same. He's just like, why wasn't it me? Why didn't I get pulled out of this checked out of this life, and they took her, who was the good one, you know? And it still hurts him every day. I know it does. And yeah, he doesn't forget the creator for that one. Doesn't forgive him at all.
I don't think I had worked at a job for probably the last 25 years because I never considered fishing or alpacas, that was all just fun to me.
And then the alpacas.
So I was trying to find a reverse season home, and where would it be? I want Roach Harbor in reverse, so we were having so much fun there. And the Marlborough Sound and the north end of the South Island in New Zealand is where you want to go.
Here's of a bankrupt government company that had all these animals, and they knew the value of them, but the government people that were auctioned didn't know the value of them.
And so we ended up hearing about it and ended up buying the entire herd.
So he went in there and he spent a month in Wellington working with an attorney trying to buy it, the whole herd. Then they hear, oh, we got this Canadian guy coming down that's gonna give us an offer too. And my dad met him at the airport, and they went and they sat down and said, listen, buddy, I've been down here a month and you're not gonna mess this up. What I need you to do is go in there and show, do the tour of the farm and tell them their animals suck. And then you and I will be partners for half of them. And we'll get it at this price, right? And then the deal will be solved. And they did it on a napkin and it worked out.
And all of a sudden we were in the alpaca business.
He didn't even know the guy before. Then he brought him to the United States and became the president of the association and really trying to create the husbandry aspect of it and the marketing of the animals.
And it was pretty neat. We had some pretty exciting trips up into the Altiplano and
hand-picked ones, and they would send them down to quarantine station in San Diego, and then you'd bring them up to the U.S. We got 500 alpacas on the San Juan Island, and there are people like, what the heck are those? Never even seen them. And they're just like long-necked poodles. They're funny. Our relationship was so much about ideas and kind of business, and he really groomed me of, hey, this is how a business works.
Well, it was kind of fun because Barry was at school and college, and he called me up.
Hey, Dad, I got an idea, gum that's got caffeine in it.
We probably shouldn't put this in. He said, Dad, you're at the library and you want to be a little hip.
It's like, that's FDA.
Obviously, you need some help studying.
And then there's times, when I came up with the hat.
Then he came home and we were up fishing, maybe blowing 60 and we're 12-foot seas, and it was pretty stormy and he couldn't keep his hat on. That's where he first came up with the idea of the Caboo strap cap. Put it on, it was going to stay on.
And he said, manufacturing is where you can make a lot of money because you can get that multiple of, instead of making 20, you can make 100,000. You just got to reach that. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm going to do that, but I like this little idea.
And we made a few prototypes and made it so the ladies' hair could out back on theirs. And
the first ones looked really funny. They looked like it was a jock strap for your head. It was just webbing. It wasn't covered.
I put it on and I go, gee, there's a lot of forehead here, Barry. Think we could put something to cover it up? And he says, well, that's it. I can make a strap hat.
Sourcing the webbing and going to a sew shop and tricking it out, putting the canvas on it and using the webbing.
Black undercover for reflection, and you could cinch it on.
And it stays on your head in the wind, and it's an awesome hat. And I would give the ones I would make and take them up and give them to the crabbers on the boat that were, and they're like, this thing's awesome. Yeah, I can see how this is functional.
In fact, those first days when he was first starting out, I was down in Chile in the Atacama Desert, back at this little school, and this guy walks out with a Kavu hat on. I hardly knew that Barry had even sold any, and I say, nice hat. He looks at me and I had one on. He says, oh my God, I met Barry and I've got one of his first hats here, and I have an adventure travel business, and I was down in Antarctica and we were out on this ledge with a French group, and the wind was just howling and everyone lost their hats but me. My Kavu hat stayed on. It was really funny. It was just a regular commercial.
Before I got it into stores and kind of proper distribution, I was out at trailheads or kayak events in Riggins, Idaho, and selling my little wares for $5, $10, and people liked it. So then I'm just like, spread the word, tell your friends about it.
So it kind of seemed like we were on the right track, that we had a good product, and They've improved it all along.
Being an Alaskan, being on a boat, and being able to solve problems before you leave the dock, but when you're out there, stuff breaks, and you better have the tools to fix it. And I took everything I learned there and put it into like business in just a practical way. And then that's especially true in manufacturing. No, there is a way to make it happen.
Triple work score. 3-pointer. Kavu, bro.
What does that mean?
I can use Kavu in a sentence. Just looking for the ultimate Kavu day. So, you asked me if I can use Kavu in a sentence? You bet. Kavu is a flight term for Klear Above Visibility Unlimited. It has been coined the perfect day. A day where you can work harder and play harder than anyone else. A Kavu day.
There were a lot of flight schools named Caboo, and we used the term quite often in flying, and we liked it, and I was going to name my boat Caboo, and Leroy, my friend Leroy Kingland, he named his boat Caboo before I got a new boat, so we came up with the name. It was atmospheric perfection. If you want to land at an airport and you call in and they say Caboo, that meant it was perfect. You didn't have to worry about it anymore. You didn't have to explain that it was 25,000 thin broken or something like that. And in Canada, they even have Cavo-K. Not quite as good as Caboo. Yeah, no, it didn't really have a lot to do with the weather. It had a lot to do with we were going for greatness or going for some exciting new adventure and time to get up and get going. It didn't mean that the weather had to be perfect. It was that we didn't really care what the weather was. And so many, you just had to, like up here where we fish in the wilderness, it's just you put on what clothes you need to do the job. And right now it's raining.
Bruce Barr waking up, he does not want to miss a moment of the day. So we always had an ethic of pay to play as well, you know, so we got to do something for this and then you can do whatever, but there's no free ride in the family. But on weekends when you're in high school and you have your friends staying over, they're like, God, Barry, these kids would sleep in forever. But they would come to my house knowing the rule at the Barr house was you could do whatever you want the night before, but you had to work from 8 to 12 in the morning. He'd wake us up, we'd just be dragging, and we'd go chop wood, cut down trees, throw it in, and then at noon we'd eat a great burger, and then it was party time, like motorcycles, fishing, whatever you wanted to do. So that hard work that some of my friends never had from their parents, they would do it because they knew the play was so awesome. You know, smiling when you're tired and trying to be happy. When you're working, and you're working long hours inside and you're cranky and you just want to go to sleep and you can't even open your hands because they're so swollen and your fingernails are breaking off, and you're wet, and it's like, oops, we got to get up. You know, you better come up with a smile instead of the grizzly bear that's cranky and stomping. You know, that I took into how I hire people at Caboo as well, you know, because I want them to be happy in tough times, and I want people to prevent problems and pitch in and solve the problem, and not just, you know, it's not my job. I don't need to do that. Bruce Barr's philosophy of life is very simple. Have the most fun you can today because tomorrow might not be around. Period. That's it. No matter what you're doing. It might be suck what you're doing, but you can still have fun at it. And that's kind of a point of reference philosophy. Got to dig a ditch? God, this is fun. You know, I mean, it almost gets to the point of, really? It's not that fun. But that's in his head and ingrained, and it's never changed, ever.
Then I said